Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For a radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music via podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, I think one of the channels a lot of us watch when it comes to entertainment, but also enlightenment, is A&E. And, of course, they are now in full swing with the new season of Neighborhood Wars. It's a show that takes us into the homes and backyards of neighbors across the country with some very interesting moments caught on camera. Here to talk to us about the show's success and, of course, this season, we're excited to welcome Marcie Hume to our broadcast today. Marcie is the current VP of Programming for A&E and the creative force behind Season 6 of the hit reality show Neighborhood Wars. If you all are not paying attention, of course, the new episode airs tonight. But, Marcie, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking with me.
Well, look, the pleasure's definitely all mine. I think a lot of people have really grown to this show, I think, because a lot of times we see either reflections of ourselves in our behavior sometimes, Marcie, in Neighborhood Wars, but also I think some great moments that have us talking. What has it been like for you to see the way that people are responding to the show?
Well, that's definitely the goal of the show, is how you articulate it, is to hold a mirror up to our behavior. And I think that's exactly it. I really think, to me, it is to hold that mirror up and I think have us all reflect on what's going on. We see such a spectrum of behavior in the show, and you see such intense moments, you see such beautiful moments, and it's really, I can only look to myself. It's really changed my own behavior just watching so many episodes of this show, and also Road and Customer Wars. And it really, it forces you to reflect on how these moments, these intense moments between people, and in this case between neighbors, play out. So I think it just forces us to reflect on what those intense moments are, how we behave with each other, how we could possibly deal with all these really nuanced, sometimes very bizarre situations and possibly de-escalate them or kind of how we would want to handle them.
That's such a great point. You referenced, Marcie, Road Wars and also Customer Wars, of course, two other great shows on A&E. I mean, could you have imagined, though, when Neighborhood Wars started, that it would be the hit that it is today?
Well, a little bit, just because everybody has a neighbor, and I think when you tap into something that is so kind of primal and common between us all, you have the potential for everybody to tune in and watch something, and it just feels so kind of, palpable to everyone. And, this came out of a moment when everybody, it was 2020, everybody was, 1 out of 5 Americans had left the big city and kind of hightailed it to the suburbs, and neighbor complaints were on the rise. They'd gone up 200%, and, everybody was kind of packed in that way. So it felt like, and what we try to do is tap into a moment in that way and really, follow a moment that's happening. So you never know if people are going to watch something, of course, and we always want to create things that people are going to enjoy and find and watch and get something out of. But I do think that neighbor stories are they're just so relatable, because truly, unless you are one of those people that forges a life alone in a cabin, you have some sort of neighbor relationship, and you have to make that relationship, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, and I think, too, outside of Neighborhood Wars, Customer Wars is also a favorite of mine, Marcie, and I think it kind of ties into the same premise of the things caught on camera. Sometimes you expect the unexpected, whether it's, a bear going into a store, but also, even good moments in neighborhoods as well. What has that been like for you to show really how being able now to have everything documented has really changed the way we're able to see the good and not so good of individuals, but also to be able to kind of, as we were saying earlier, to kind of hold that mirror up to ourselves and to our own behavior and make us kind of second think some of that?
Absolutely. I think it's really changed the game. We've always had this kind of show in television, but I think now, because cameras are so pervasive, and there's also the trend that people will film things to document them for their own safety, or, because they just want to have the footage to cover themselves or whatever it might be. We're just in a totally different time where it's sort of expected that things are on camera and documented. And I'm sure we'll go through more phases of what that looks like. But the current moment is just, it's really expected that really intense things will be covered in this way. So it just really felt like a natural moment for these shows to evolve. And, it just really is incredible that more and more moments keep coming out of that. So it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves. And, I can only imagine that things will shift and change in ways that we can't even anticipate now.
Sure, without a doubt. Well, as I mentioned, of course, for those joining us live, Marcie, they will be able to enjoy a new episode of Neighborhood Wars tonight. Talk to us about this current season. What has it been like for you to kind of see the way this season has unfolded and some of the things maybe that our audience should be on the lookout for?
Oh, yeah. Every season evolves because it follows what's actually happening in our country. So I think we get to watch the trends that are happening because we're following the footage that comes in and what is emerging in the country and in the world. So we see what people are struggling with. I've seen an uptick, I think, in things like theft and package thieves and bike thieves and how people are dealing with that. I think people getting really fed up with things like that. I think you see people getting fed up with even smaller things like, things that seem sort of silly to us, like, dogs pooping on a lawn or something like that, and people taking that into their own hands and inadvertently documenting themselves, sort of, getting upset about their own neighbors. It's really incredible. So you see those behavioral trends sort of change across the seasons, but, there's never a lack of content because obviously human behavior is always going to be what it is. We just are who we are, and we can't help but have these relationships. So that's what we're doing, is kind of watching and tracking trends and letting people be who they are.
I love that, and that's why we continue to tune in. Again, everyone, a new episode of Neighborhood Wars airs tonight for those joining us live on A&E. You can check your local listing for the time, but we've been speaking with Marcie Hume, who's the Vice President of Programming for A&E, and talking with us not only about the show's success, but also about what it's been like for her to see the response to it. Marcie, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Amazing. Thanks for talking, Cyrus.
Hey, glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's go make today amazing. Take care.